what basic advice that you would give to somebody who's coming in and wanting to tell a story?
So much of non-profit communication is very boring, because there's people saying like very predictable things about how they're upset that they don't have something, and wouldn't the world be fantastic if everyone was included. And some people do speak like that, but they're not speaking like that all the time, and it's maybe not the most interesting thing that they're saying. And if they do say it, it's much more motivating if you've understood them as a person and in their uniqueness before. So that's somewhat beyond the kind of like, this definitely far beyond a disability issue. But I really wish non-profit communication could like just sort of take a step back from seeing it so functionally that we have to tell a story that like serves this purpose, and have more room for different complexity, more room to get to know the people, and they're going to say contradictory and like confusing things, and that's the magic. That's the magic of humanity.
No, I think that's a great takeaway. That and embracing that magic and that messiness of humanity, right? Is that it's not formulaic, and that's because life isn't formulaic, and nobody's journey is. I think one of the problems is that a lot of these are very linear, right? A lot of the stories that are written are very linear. So important to bring that nuance and talk about all the things that have happened and all of the potholes and diversions that have happened before, in between A and B.
I think that's a great metaphor for it, because disability is a constant sort of a constant pothole creation life. There are lots of sort of surprising and bizarre little barriers that one faces, and it's sort of really you're going along a familiar path and there's suddenly something in your way and it's become inaccessible, for instance, or a pothole, for instance, and that's it kind of makes things a lot less predictable, and you kind of have to people react in very different ways to that. Some people get angry, some people get sad, some people just ignore it, and that's there's a lot of creativity and messiness in the disability experience, and kind of bringing that out can be a really interesting aspect of what people's lives are like.
Is there anyone that's doing storytelling really well?
I think there are really interesting examples of people using art and creativity and sort of new ways of talking about things. You can see a lot of this on social media, which is, with all its faults, also being a platform where disabled people, often as individuals, can really talk about the disability experience in a different way, and very engaging way, and bring all the kind of the creativity to that. There's a really nice project in India called Revival Disability India. I always appreciate their celebration of Valentine's Day, which they celebrate as Criplentine's Day, and it's really provocative. They have great illustrations. They have kind of stories that kind of really challenge a lot of your perceptions, and they kind of it's really exciting. On the Debrief, I've just interviewed a photographer called Chris Tasso, who did a really interesting photography series with disabled people around the world, and he's also sort of partly escaping the NGO space, but he spoke that it was kind of challenging for NGOs to give value to that different form of storytelling, to give value to a form of storytelling that the people with disabilities themselves they decided how they wanted their pictures taken, and it was outside of where they benefited by some project or other. So I kind of see that art and creativity and whatnot. But I also see that NGOs can really contribute just by like spending a longer time with people and kind of documenting a nice little interview and sharing it, and like, I mean, maybe get people off the more beaten track of like, just what policy change they wanna have.
What you're saying, particularly about using, you know, art, I particularly feel like we've seen some really powerful examples, particularly using humour, because disability tends to be a somewhat uncomfortable topic for some people. It can be scary to talk about it. You don't really know how to talk about it, and I feel like art and humour can really help people to break it down, put everyone on a level playing field. They're all cracking up laughing, and then it's a much easier, more free-flowing kind of
for sure. And that's going to speak to allowing the individuality and kind of uniqueness of someone coming out, because this humor isn't going to happen if we're like sort of trying to like follow the guidelines too much. Corporate sector is good at selling stuff, right, and making people feel that it's part of something bigger. And unfortunately, NGOs, even though like the message is kind of on our side as it's our work, we haven't been very good like sort of NGO communications that like is sort of like sexy and appealing and sort of like makes you feel better, and like gives you a bit of a buzz for going on with your day. I think that's a really nice point you brought out there, SJ, on like how how the corporate side has kind of storytelling and publicity techniques that we can definitely learn from. Apple did a video for Disability Day last year. It's called "I'm the Greatest," and like it's kind of an advertisement for Apple Tech, but like it's also an advertisement for like disabled people looking like absolutely beautiful, like great soundtrack, baller lives, and just smashing it, and it kind of really like it really vibrates. So yeah, there's that not to see kind of disability as the end point, but as something that like through meeting disabled people and through like using some of the questions that throws up can throw new perspectives on the world.